we were debating on your knees.
Okay, we're
live.
To Jen, I thought that was very appropriate.
We're live. This is Senate Appropriations, April 22nd.
What?
We're going
You
to
were
do
right
a
on
bill
your
for
knees.
Senator Westman, H218. Then we're going to get back to the FY26 budget. So, Senator Lyons, this was a bill coming out of your committee. Do you want to
I'll just
us
give
an
the
overview,
quick
or do you want to
overview, and then no one can give you any details that you need. How's that? Very
yeah, or we
quickly.
can have this plan.
You want Katie to do that?
It's up to you. I mean, my fiscal note is redundant of what's in the bill. It might be easier to just look at the fiscal note, and then Katie's here to answer any specific questions, but the fiscal note pretty much is redundant of the bill, unless there's other stuff in the bill.
There's some policy considerations around the advisory council. I don't know if that is as interesting to this committee as the actual appropriations.
Yeah, so as you recall, when the opioid settlement dollars, abatement dollars came to the state, we had the option of putting in place an advisory committee to advise the Department of Health regarding the use of those funds. And then it would, once that recommendation is made, could go into a separate bill or go into the budget. This year it's been pretty much as a separate bill. Then some of the recommendations that we've looked at in committee relate to how the advisory committee works. We made changes last year and we've made changes again this year. I think the appropriations that Nolan and can go through, and Katie can talk about some of the changes we made for the advisory committee. It's very pro forma. The recommendations were made by the advisory committee and then adhered to with the Commissioner of Health and put into legislative language. And so the fiscal note really reflects what's in the bill in terms of appropriating money to reduce substance use disorder in the state. So it goes, ranges from criminal justice issues to other grants for different local services and uses. So I'll let Nolan go through if you'd like that. You know how you want to do it.
Yeah, Nolan wants to give us the overview. I have one question about this, and I don't know if you want to, you don't have copies of the joint fiscal. I assume it's on our website, so yeah, it's on our website. I happen to have a copy, but the overdose prevention center, we had that wasn't in the prevention bill last year. We just used that general funds, or did we?
Overdose Prevention Center was in the bill last year.
Was it in the opioid prevention?
It was
bill?
in
Okay.
it did go through the opioid abatement funds. I do have.
I think I remember it, so they didn't spend it, so we're like reappropriating this year, or is this an addition
No,
to the
no.
$1 million?
I can talk about that with you. Hold it. Oh, here's my OPC. I brought that just in case. The Overdose Protection Center process is one that began with Act 178 passed in June of 24 last year. And then as part of the legislation, the Department of Health was required to put guidelines in place for any OPC that is developed in the state. And those guidelines were put in place by September 15th as required. The city of Burlington then posted a position for a special assistant to help implement the program in Burlington. And they closed on that in October. So now we have guidelines and now a position in the city. And then following that, the hiring of the person took place in November of 24, and she is still in place. And she started working in December of 2024. So the act was passed in June, and that included the $1 million. And then in December, she started her work. In January of this year, then a draft request for location of OPC in Burlington went out. And then the final draft of the request was completed at the end of January. In February, the city publicly posted and widely shared the request for the center for interested parties to identify an OPC service provider and to submit their proposal in February. In February, the city met with their legal team and policy teams at the Vermont Department of Health to discuss the proposal, the allocation, the funding, and the contracting. The work continues to go on, and I think, hang on, March 12th, 2025, which was last month, the city invited a selected OPC provider to work alongside the city to develop the full proposal for the city council and health department. And then recently there was a city vote on the OPC proposal. I believe that was positive, and I'm looking at Virginia Renfrew, that the vote at the city council in Burlington was positive for the OPC. Can you answer that question or not? Or can David?
Yeah, David Beckenberg on behalf of the city of Burlington. The vote is scheduled for the 28th. They had a working session that was very positive, and people indicated strong support.
Is the million, and so it would be an annual appropriation going forward? Is that
For 5 years. So the request, so it's a 5-year pilot program for an OPC, and it is very much directed toward the city of Burlington. That's the only place in the state, is my understanding, that has requested the funding and is interested in establishing it.
This is through 28, so that would only be 3 more years. This is through 28 on the fiscal note.
So that's intent,
That's intent.
because they can't appropriate 1 year at a time. For one-time funds,
Right.
every year. So
Okay.
it's intent,
The
like,
Center Alliance said 5 years,
Well, it's a 5-year pilot, so, but we
but with
can't,
only
we
3
can't,
years of intention of funding.
yeah, so we can just only do so much.
Okay.
But the funds for 25, will go into play very soon. And then, hopefully carry forward.
Okay.
The initial startup costs, actually are more than the $1.1 million. And in 26, that funding phase will allow for paying people who work at the OPC. So there's a lot going on that is not visible.
Okay. But overall, as far as the general fund, there's no impact on the general fund. There's enough money in the fund to fund all the appropriations that.
this year, but I would like to flag future years.
Yeah, okay.
If you want to.
Yeah, would you want to walk us through that? I mean, you don't have to go through each appropriation.
Yeah, but I want to just come up real quick.
Yeah. Just a big picture of what we should know.
For the record, Noel Langwell, the Joint Fiscal Office. I guess the 3 things I would just want to flag were, 1, not walk through every single one of these things, but just show you that if you look at the third page of the fiscal note, you'll see that it's the total appropriation out of the fund is $9.888 million. And some of these things they have intent language around them being annually, as long as the funds are available. Other things that did not. The OPC, they said they intended for it to be through fiscal year 2020. So that's the first thing I wanted to flag. It's just the total appropriation. The second thing I wanted to flag is also in the fiscal note, which I can also pull out, is just how the money has been spent to date.
Right.
So, and the piece that Al, do I have the ability to share?
Sure.
All right, let me find the fiscal note here.
So it started in 23.
Yeah, so. Okay, so. we have the total appropriation 9.88, and I won't walk through all of them unless you want myself or Katie to do so. The second piece I have in the fiscal notes, I just sort of show how the money's been spent since 2023. And you'll notice that so far, we've had $26 million in revenues. We've spent 14 million of it so far. There's 12 million unappropriated before this bill. So you have another 9. But what I really want to flag is that what it looks like in the out years, and that the payments were there's multiple organizations that are paying into the settlement. Some did them up front, some did a little bit up front, and some are doing it over time. So it's a little front loaded. There's a lot more money in the beginning than there will be in the end. And so you can see that in 2025, 2026, 27, we're only going to get about $4 to $5 million a year going forward. We're spending 9.8 million this year. Next year, we won't have as much. We'll have a little bit of carry forward than this, and then it's going to start dwindling down to 2037 where we have very little. Now, what this doesn't include is there's a new settlement with the Sackler Purdue family. We don't know what that's going to be. We don't know if they'll front load it or pay it over time or what our settlement is going to be. I talked to the AG's office about it. There's no information about that yet. So there'll be a little bit more money. But the last couple of years we've been paying a lot more. OPC is obviously part of the conversation of how much money is there next year and the year after that when the money starts to dwindle a little bit. So I just want to flag that this isn't a bottomless pit that we're going to get the same money every year.
Right.
So that's the pieces I want to flag.
Any questions about this bill, H218? Funds? How it works or anything like that? How it's being appropriated? Okay.
There's one more thing I want to just flag too. I think it's important for this committee. I'm sorry. When I was working on this in the House Appropriations Committee, we were looking at the previous year's appropriations, and we did find that some of the money hadn't gone out the door. So, for instance, the OPCs. Well, that's because they hadn't had the money up and running. So, House Appropriation initially, House Human Services initially did not include the 1.1, but then they heard, or Appropriations heard from Burlington, and Appropriations put that back in. That's an example. Some of the other ones are the money's been allocated, but it hasn't gone out the door yet. And there's some where the money, they just haven't had anybody apply or haven't received RFPs to do certain things, so the money's just sitting there. So when this came to light, people are like, why isn't the money, we appropriate this money, why? And some of the money is from 23, hasn't actually gone out the door. So I just want to flag or just make note of the fact that some of the money that we've appropriated has not been obligated. So that is something that could be addressed in future years, or, an AHS is aware of this, is working on it, and some of the money has trickled out the door since then. But I just didn't want it to be a surprise if next year we come in and say, wait, the money, why is there still all this money here? And didn't we put that money, and why didn't it get spent? There's different reasons for each of those. Some are contracting issues, some are, they haven't come up, and some are just they haven't got any RFP. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And Katie, is there a group that makes the decision? I forgot what they're called.
Yeah, there's a group that's created by statute, it's an advisory committee. They're staffed by the health department, and they give recommendations. And this year, what's in this bill reflects those recommendations. I do want to flag, but the committee may already know this, that there was one appropriation from the special fund that came over from the House that is not in this bill. It was moving separately in the housing bill. So I just want to make you aware that you will or have already seen a separate appropriation moving in a different bill from the special fund.
Do you know how much it is? What the appropriation is?
600? 3 or 600,000. And it was unclear if it's the same purpose or if it's base funding and this is one time, so I never got full.
And the advisory council doesn't get per diem?
I think they do. I have to look at their statutory language. I would assume they do.
And it would be within the base funding of the Department of Health. It's nothing we have to appropriate for.
I believe so. Let me double check the language.
There's still just a fund, like fund, even after these appropriated says 2.1 million, so if the other bill does 600,000, there's enough money in the fund.
Except I think from the general fund now. So
Well,
they
yeah.
go coming out of GF.
But it better fund some things that are similar funded in here.
It goes to recovery centers. I think it's for a different purpose from what I've been able to glean than what's in the open, but I haven't been able to reconcile those pieces. I have people shaking their heads at me, so I guess I'm not the one to answer that question.
So
Because this has recovery residences. not
There's recovery residences, there's recovery centers,
Recovery
they're very
centers.
different.
Right, but this just
Transitional.
says residence, not centers. As far as I can.
There's recovery campuses.
Yeah.
You
I know, I already,
So to answer your compensation question, there is compensation reimbursement for all members, including legislative members, for not more than 12 meetings annually, appropriated from the special fund.
okay, so just self-funds itself. Okay. Any other questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to pass the bill.
So moved.
Favorably, I assume?
Favorably.
Okay.
Intensely favorably.
Intensely favorably. The clerk can clerk away.
Okay, H 218. Today the 22nd.
1 second, yeah. Hopefully it's on the board.
Earth Day. You should know that.
Earth Day.
Oh, yeah.
Week.
All right. Senator Norris. Yes. Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Baruth.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator Brennan. Yes. Senator Perchlik.
Yes.
Great. Reporter.
I can do it.
You know.
You want me to spend a long time or a short?
Short.
Okay, so thank you for that. And we were going to do, we're gonna do Amy first. For some reason in my mind, I thought we wanted to do academic stuff. There's,
Oh, that's okay.
here's a handout.
Thank you.
Drug fiscal in this book is gonna go over all the positions we created, which I was surprised how many there were. Once we really tallied them all up. I think in general, we try to limit new positions, but a lot of these were kind of specific to the situations. And some of them are coming out of the pool. We had a lot from the Green Mountain Care Board, which is kind of an unusual situation. And continuing to try to catch up with deficits in the whole judiciary system.
So Amy Pope, the Joint Fiscal Office, and I tried to share. Go, okay, so, I guess we can start at the top. So we can just start at the top and we'll do what I can to answer questions. Some of the answers may be when Emily comes to talk about just the budget in general. But so the first 2 lines is a swap of a position that was agreed to at JMLC. And so there's no position, like at the bottom, it's a net neutral. For the treasurer, there's a part-time position for the Climate Super Fund. And I want to back up for 1 minute. So what I'm suggesting for you is for positions that are in sort of constitutional officer type positions, so the treasurer and the state's attorneys and sheriffs, I'm suggesting that you create new positions, you authorize new positions. And then the governor, for example, is creating positions in the base, but those come from the pool. So as we go down line by line, I can identify those, and if you agree, that's great, and if you have a different suggestion, then I will make that note. So when the bill is drafted, we're either authorizing a new position or we're creating them from the pool.
Okay, can you make your screen bigger in case some people do want to?
I have a lot of things on this screen.
Down in that right corner. Oh,
Is that better?
yeah.
Okay.
That's even better.
Beautiful. All right, so the next section, already seeing an error. The State Labor Board Relations or State Relations Board, based on S-125, there was an appropriation and request for 2 positions. So we put those in here, and those would be new positions.
But when S-25 left here, we took the appropriation out.
You did.
Then when we went through the budget, we added them back.
That's correct. For the Attorney General's office, there were 3 positions, and so you'll see on the right-hand side, the House did add one of these positions for pre-charge, and then you've added 2 additional positions for the Solicitor General and then the Home Repair Fraud Coordinator. And I'm suggesting those to be new.
But the fraud coordinator is a current position. There's somebody doing that job right now today.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Oh, well then we don't have to create that.
But I think maybe it was a limited service.
Okay.
I think that's.
I don't know. I can look into
That's what
that.
I know there's somebody doing it today.
Okay. So if it's limited service, is a request to make it permanent? Or is it to extend it?
Don't remember.
Okay,
Must
I will
be
look
to
into
extend it
it.
because they didn't have the money. They needed the money.
Okay. I'll look into whether or not, did we put it in the base or the one time? I'll look into it and I'll
Okay.
report back. The Defender General, the House did not note that, but the House converted 9 limited service positions to permanent, and I believe you were concurring with that. For the state's attorneys and sheriffs, there's 4 lines. So the first line is to add a fiscal IT position that would be new, to convert 9 limited service positions, which is new to the committee, but they're limited service positions that would be made permanent. 2 transport deputies, which are new, and then to do 9 limited service I'm sorry. That's not correct. That's a bad note. But the 2 lines, there's 2 more lines there that on B205 and the last line on 207, you're concurring with the House to sort of buy back the vacancy savings.
And they use those for those positions.
That's correct.
Are you saying the
Oh.
note doesn't line up with the?
The note is
description?
wrong. Yep, on the sheriff's line, the note in the Senate is just a copy and paste from 205 above. We did a poor job editing today.
Was there 9 or 8 positions in the Defender General's office?
9.
There was 9? Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
And then, so we're making them permanent base full-time positions.
That's correct.
Just when they created them, they weren't too sure, because they thought maybe it was about the backlog, and then if they get through the backlog, they won't need the positions.
That's right. And the money's in the base for those limited service positions.
Okay.
I doubt we'll ever get through that.
Yeah.
B221, this is the K-9 trainer, which was in the House. I'm suggesting the pool because that's what the House did, but you could make a different
Is
suggestion.
there a chance that they could say, oh, we're gonna get it from the pool, and then they go to the pool and the pool's empty? Or is the pool always cycling through?
That is a possibility.
Like, these like 10%?
I don't know. We would have to ask the administration. I think the last we had heard, there was 6 or 7 positions in the pool, and they'll have to do another look at vacancies across state government to determine how many more they'll get.
Because we're putting several in
Yes,
the pool. Or we want to take several from the pool.
you want to convert several from the pool to permanent positions.
Okay.
The next 3 lines for Secretary of State, these are, I'm suggesting, the first one would be new. This, we heard from the Secretary of State that they had funding for an administrative service coordinator, and this would help with public records, open meeting law questions, and municipal assistance program.
This is another example. They had the money. It's kind of like the home repair fraud coordinators. They have the money for it, although they don't actually have somebody doing the work.
Correct.
They just needed authority for the position.
That's correct. The next 2 lines, this is related to the child care proposal.
S219.
S219, and so that bill, hasn't moved yet, and so we were, joint fiscal, when we were talking about this, we were wondering if you wanted to wait to create these positions until that moved, or did you want to create the positions in the big bill?
Do we know if that bill did meet crossover? Which 19, that's the child care license.
Child care license.
Or child care workers.
It's still in GovOps.
It's still in GovOps.
Yeah, which is interesting because we have money for professionalization slated in the budget
Right.
on the assumption that it's gonna come out.
Yeah. Didn't make crossover.
Did not make crossover.
So it seems like we shouldn't write the positions in the budget.
I like the idea of moving the position to the bill, and then if the bill doesn't move, the position doesn't get moved.
Just keep them in there, but then.
And that way, it's gonna stop in here anyway if it makes it through.
Yeah.
So we'll have another bite at the apple if we wanna do it.
Okay.
But if we take it out of the budget now and put it in that bill, it looks like we're not doing as many positions.
Right. And we have money, we have like 1.7.
There's money, I believe there's money.
So if the bill doesn't pass, that would be available money for another
Right.
year.
So you are suggesting to create the positions?
I think that's what he said.
Which ones we talking about?
These are the 2 Secretary of State positions, B232.
I understood you to be saying, move the positions to the bill rather than having.
Oh, keep them in
to
that's not the big bill, keep them in 219.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good, thank you.
You need to
Okay,
keep
so
money on the bottom line
out here, right?
yeah, but,
Yeah.
so the money for these positions is
in,
not in the bill,
is
not
in-
in the big bill, it's not in the budget.
You talking
is that coming out of the special fund that we're
So
creating?
this might be a good question for when Emily comes in to talk about the specifics about this.
Because when we did the $18 million CCFAP
That's right.
non-change, I thought we also kind of had something in there for 219. Or maybe that's just the licensing work at OPR.
There is money, and I think it says staff, because it does say staff, but it's just not clear what staff.
Okay.
So I think we just need to do a little, we need to make a circle.
Given where we are, it's a little hard for me to see it making it all the way this year.
Yeah.
I don't know what Emily suggests in terms of covering our bases, but if I had to bet, I'd say that bill comes through next year.
Yeah.
But that would mean that the money sits in the special fund
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have to do anything in here.
Right. Okay,
That makes
so we'll leave the positions in 2 and 10.
The next two lines is for human rights commissions. We have two positions from the pool. That's what the House recommended. The cannabis board, my understanding is that position was part of the governor's recommend. There was money for the position. And so that position would come from the pool. And then the next two lines may need to be another larger discussion for when Emily comes in. Originally, we were holding all of the positions that were recommended in S126, but there's been some new information. So what we're recommending is the Green Mountain Care, no, so this is AHS. So AHS would not need positions for the first year. And so we removed them. Even though they were in S126, we're recommending not, and by we, I just mean sort of like what I've been hearing about this, that the positions not be provided to AHS, but there'll be some other projects and funding that will be discussed later on this afternoon.
Okay.
So that's sort of an open item.
Yeah, there's a new fiscal note, or related to 126, based on what AHS needs are and Green Mountain Care Board. So
And S126 is getting a,
126, we can look
is it
at it.
getting a fair hearings in the House, like if they're working on it?
It is, they are, it's great.
At B310 is DIVA. In the governor's recommend, there were 8 positions for Justice Reentry Initiative and would be full positions. And then sort of carrying on a little bit around S126. So the first 3 lines for the Green Mountain Care Board, these were in the governor's recommend and would be full positions. And then we have sort of continuing on with S126. There were several positions for Green Mountain Care Board, and this new construct, they would need 2 less positions at Green Mountain Care Board.
So there's 2 in the middle. Since you don't have any numbers in the far right column, like we're not going to do this.
That's correct. The global budgets, the 2 global budgets titles.
Are not
Not going to be.
not gonna be.
Correct.
So there, so when Nolan comes back, we can walk through the new information related to those positions. If you'd like, yeah,
That's
it's
right.
got a nice little fiscal note.
Okay.
All right.
So there's 6 new positions at the Green Mountain Care Board, just.
Then the 703 for Fish and Wildlife, we had 2 positions, but we have dropped that down to 1. And with ANR, there were 2 positions in the governor's recommend for full positions for CAFO. And then the next
Is it
4
CAFO or CAFO?
oh, sorry.
Honestly, I'm gonna take it saying CAFO, but it
You're
doesn't
probably
matter.
right. You're probably
It's an
right.
acronym, so
Yes.
you can all be right.
And now we have the LURB. There were, let's see, so convert 2 positions. I shouldn't use any acronyms. I shouldn't pronounce any acronyms is what I learned today. Okay, so convert 2 positions to permanent that are in the base. And so there wouldn't, you wouldn't need to get new positions because there are already positions that are limited service.
That's like the positions we did for state's attorneys and the sheriff.
Correct.
What is the word?
Land Use Review Board.
Land use review.
Land Use Review Board.
Maybe would improve.
The better way of saying it. And then the next 3 items are for within ACCD. And my understanding is that none of the positions were going to be extended or funded. That's the way the budgets are looking. The Senate proposals are. So there's your
So it'd be,
Summary.
it'd be 30, because that one, if it,
That's right, you beat the 30.
so the governor recommended 19, the House moved to 21, and we moved all the way up to 30.
It's gonna be a point of contention.
Yeah, and it was something that I was mentioned when I met with the governor's budget people, they noticed. We didn't slip that one
Hard
by.
to believe.
Do you want to look at my message?
Do we need to?
Only if you want to. I think there's a reduction in the number of positions for both AHS and Green Mountain Care Board.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah,
I think,
good. If we're good, we're good.
yeah, unless anybody has questions about those positions not staying in.
When you say we created 31, does that include any of those positions that are simply taken from the part-time to the full-time when the money's already?
Yeah, you'll notice those when we converted those 9 positions in the 2 places, there's no number in the Senate column. Because those weren't created.
Okay, all right, that answers my question,
As
yeah.
far as, the question is there gonna be a new state employee that we're gonna have to provide the care and feeding for the next 20 years? And then the pension. That's the issue around creating new positions. You're creating a long-term obligation of the state.
And do these Green Mountain Care Board positions, are those limited positions or those become full-time positions?
They'll be full-time,
8 of them or 6 anyway?
6.
Yeah, and I wondered, but I think somebody answered this question already. The reference-based pricing is an ongoing task. It's not like you figure it out and then you don't have to do anything. It's like every year.
Exactly.
There
will, and, as part of it will be contracting to determine how to move forward and initially, but the individual hired to do the reference-based pricing work will be someone ongoing. There could be a point in time when fewer staff are needed, but I can't see when exactly.
And the governor did have 3 positions
Yeah.
in Green Mountain Care Board. So we're having 3 more, 1 for reference-based pricing. Or there's 2 in here for reference-based.
Yes. So there's 3.
Yeah. And another
Story.
health quality project.
So,
Hope is that work, we're gonna help bend the cost curve of healthcare. That's our hope. It's gonna pay for itself.
we're gonna hold ourselves.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions for Amy about positions? You're in the budget? Thank you, Amy. Were we gonna go to you in there, or did we wanna take a break, or did we wanna go to Grady?
I think it would be good to take a break,
Okay,
like Grady touch base with folks and what you have language for.
okay. Okay, so we're gonna take a break. Check in with Grady if you have asked for language to make sure